and exchange rate. A country's balance of payment can have significant impact on the level of بس لا إله إلا الله. Okay, the country's balance of payments can have significant impact on the level of exchange rate and vice versa, depending on a country's exchange rate regime. The effect of an imbalance in the balance of payments of a country works somewhat differently depending on whether that country has fixed exchange rates, floating exchange rates, or managed exchange rate system. Under a fixed exchange rate system, the government bears the responsibility to assure a balance of payment near zero. Under a floating exchange rate system, the government of a country has no responsibility to peak its foreign exchange rate. تكلمنا عنها هذه المحاضرة الماضية لما ذكرنا انه وش بيصير للبالانس اوف بيمنت لما يكون عندنا في ايش من وش تأثيرها لكل دولة بالانس اوف بيمنت. فذكرنا انه في اختلاف لما يكون فيكست وفلورينج. حتى ذكرنا لما ذكرناها المحاضرة الماضية قلنا بشكل عام ناخذها فيكست وفلورينج بجميع انواعها. فلما ذكرناها قلنا ايش؟ اذا كانت فيكس الدوله بقياده البنك المركزي راح ياخذ بعض الطرق government intervention to fix the exchange rate regime. So fixing this exchange rate regime will result into a zero balance of payments. يعني راح يكون balance بمعنى اخر. لكن لما تكون floating لا في اختلاف هنا. البنك المركزي, the central bank does not have to do anything with the change on the balance of payments, as hence the change on the will be a change in the exchange rates between that local currency and other currency, mainly those country who have the country made trade with الدول اللي سوت معها تجارة الدولة نفسها المحلية. ف لكن بشكل غير مباشر راح يحصل ايش بالانس بسبب التغير هنا. اذا زادت اذا قوت العملة when there was appreciation on the local currency against some other currency, so that means it will be expensive to purchase from this country. There will be a surplus on the balance of payments, or on the let's say a trade surplus. As a result, other countries will not purchase from this country. So that means exports will be lowered. That means what? The balance of payments will be back to balance as well. فهذه هي, if you leave it move freely or the other way. هنا بشكل عام الحالة كلها كاملة لما ناخذها كلها. هذه كل واحدة منها واحدة من الاكونت اللي ذكرناها. عندنا current account, عندنا capital account, وعندنا financial account. احنا ركزنا على الاثنين. We've focused more on the current account balance and financial account balance. And we actually mentioned the capital account balance and reserve balance. All of these will give us the balance of payments. And we will get into this in details with the actual data for the balance of payments. فعندنا هنا current account export minus import, capital account capital inflow minus capital outflow. How much money in or how much it costs, how much worth, sorry, for the capital that get into the country minus the one that get out of the country. Capital inflow minus capital outflow. Actually, if you guys remember this, capital account and current account, there's a relationship between these. You guys took this on macroeconomics, Econ 201. Financial account, net capital outflow, if you remember, NCO. Financial account balance, which is the financial inflow and financial outflow, the difference between them. And reserve balance, how much reserve the country has. And we already mentioned this also as well in the last lecture. So any kind of reserve balance, whether a currency, foreign currency, or any others like metal, like gold and so on. That's it. The balance of payments and interest rates. Okay. By the way, we will focus on this more and more on when we talk about the exchange rate, because there is an effect of the interest rate on the exchange rate, and vice versa. There will be a causation. That what does that mean? And also there will be others, like we will talk about low fund price and so on, for the inflation as well. The effect of prices, different prices will affect also exchange rate. So the balance of payments and interest rate, apart from the use of interest rate to intervene in the foreign exchange market, the overall level of a country's interest rate compared to other country does have an impact on the financial account of the balance of payment. Why? Because if you have, let's say, if the interest rate increases, why it's a financial account, we'll talk about this. If we also capital accounts as well. If you have, if the interest rate increases compared to other country, what will happen to the money to what will happen to the capital financial account or capital account? Both are the same, most likely. So money will get into this country who have higher, let's say the local interest rate is higher than foreign interest rate or the world interest rate. So the money will flow into the country to what? For the investment into this country, to like a lot of investors will seek higher interest rates into this country. That's why will be capital inflow. So the money will flow into the local, into our domestic economy, that will result into what? Appreciation in the currency, right? So also that will result into what? Into increasing in the balance of payments, mainly into the financial and capital accounts. Relatively low interest rates should normally stimulate an outflow of capital seeking higher interest rates in other country. The opposite. That's what we talk about, but the opposite. If the low interest rate compared to other, money will flow out of the country. In the United States, however, the opposite has occurred as a result. Yeah, it's different. The United States is different because it's the United States. In America, لأن safe place to put your money, safe place to invest, like here, production innovation, political stability, and so on. That's why it's different. The balance of payment and inflation rates. Yeah, we already mentioned this as well, and we will talk about this more when we talk about the exchange rate. We will mention balance of payment, interest rate, inflation. Or each one will actually, that chapter will focus on those three mainly. Imports have a potential to lower countries' inflation rates. So mainly why? Okay, so let's say if there is an increase in imports. So if increase in imports, that means you purchase more from foreigner, right? When you purchase from more from foreigner, that means for domestic firms, there are high competitive, right? Econ 101, perfectly competitive markets will be high competitive now markets. So what do they have to do in order to compete with the foreign firms? They need to lower their prices. So that's what does that mean? Yeah, to lower the prices. So in part of imports, lower prices and service place and limits what domestic competitors charge for comparable goods and services. Okay. A simple concept in principle. Changes in exchange rate changes the relative prices of imports and exports, which in turn result in changes in quantity demanded. In reality, the process is less straightforward. We already mentioned this, exchange rate and prices. And if you guys remember in economics, we will talk about this inshallah later on. In macroeconomics, we will take this. For the whatever the, if you want to purchase something from, let's say P is the local prices, and and P star is the foreign prices. So if you want to purchase something, so prices will be equal to the foreign prices times the exchange rate, right? Or E times P star, doesn't matter. So this is the exchange rate. This is the spot exchange rate. It's not, let's say a nominal. Yeah, it's a nominal. So if you want to see what is the nominal exchange rate regime, what is the nominal exchange rate? Sorry, the nominal exchange rate is supposed to be, it's the relative prices, which is the difference between local prices to the foreign prices. We will talk about this inshallah later on. So that means if there is a low of one price, and we will talk about low of one price as well. So just disregard this if you don't understand it, or you can ask me any question for this. It may be not clear now until we will take this after, inshallah. I'm not sure if it's after the midterm or not. G curve adjustment path. Okay, you see, guys, when we talk about the what will happen for the change if it's no here. If it's different between if it's fixed or floating exchange rate regime. Where is it? I don't know. It was somewhere here, I think, or here. And we said that the government intervention or the central bank will intervene into the forex market for fixing the exchange rate. But if it's a floating exchange rate regime the country has, that means it will be float. So floating exchange meaning that the country will not fix the that, and what will happen for the balance of payments depends. If there is a surplus, that means the country already has appreciated in its domestic value or domestic currency value. What does that mean? That means the domestic product has become more expensive than before. That will lower, right? Lower the exports, or lowering the goods have been demanded by foreigner. So this one, you see this scenario, this will not happen easily. It will take time, either if it's surplus or deficit. If there was a يعني مثلا balance of payments صار في زيادة بالbalance of payments. لما يصير في زيادة والعملة مو مثبتة مع عملات أخرى يعني عائمة، هنا بالحالة هذه ما يهم. صح انه في بوزيتيف، بس بالاخير البوزيتيف هذا يعني ما في بالانس اوف بيمنت. البالانس اوف بيمنت مو بزيرو، نوت بالانس. ما يهم لانه اوريدي بيصير في بالانس. ليش؟ لان قوه العمله، الدوله ما تقدر تبيع اكثر للخارج مثل ما كانت تبيع بالسابق، بسبب ان عملتها اقوى صارت اغلى. فالشراء من داخل الدوله صعب، مو مثل السابق، مكلف يعني، مو صعب، مكلف. لذا وش بيصير؟ هنا بالحاله هذه بيقل الاكسبورت، هنا بيقل البالانس اوف بيمنت. فبكل الطريقتين بيكون هذا الشيء. بس هذه السيناريو الثاني سواء كان سيربلس ولا ديفيسيت ياخذ وقت وما يسمى بالجي كيرف. وليش جي كيرف؟ ليش الجي كيرف؟ ليش ياخذ هذا الوقت؟ طيب عندنا 3 periods. انتبهوا معي يا شباب، هي ما فيها صعوبه بس انها واضحه يعني ميك سنس. فعندنا الجي كيرف عندنا 3 periods. الاولى مثل الصين قبل فترة، كل دولة يحصل فيها، وكل دولة تحصل فيها، يعني ممكن مثل الصين قبل فترة. فعندنا currency contract period، يعني الآن العملة تغيرت. فلما تتغير العملة، سواء قوت العملة أو ضعفت، أنت كتاجر ما تقدر تغير، خلاص عندك contract، صح ولا لا؟ فتسمى currency contract period. Adjustment is uncertain due to existing contract that must be fulfilled. So you have to fulfill these contracts. خلاص أنت already عندك contract وبتبيع لناس في الخارج أو بتشتري من الخارج مثلا raw materials وغيرها. نتكلم عن الشركات multinational enterprise، شركات اللي تسوي تجارة على مستوى العالم. هنا بالحالة هذه بما أنه ما تقدر تغير، خلاص هذه البيريود 1 لما نتكلم عن currency contract period. Second period, the pass-through period. The pass-through period, imports and exports must eventually pass along the cost changes. ايش معناتها؟ يعني هذه البيريود خلاص أنت عرفت أن currency contract period. طيب وش صار؟ بالcurrency contract period ما تقدر تسوي شيء لأنه already عندك contract. طيب الفترة اللي بعدها pass-through، خلاص الآن أنت تعرف أن ضعفت العملة أو قوت العملة، لازم تحولها للطرف الآخر، أنت تستفيد. فعليا انت بالحاله هذه ضعفت عملتك، معناته انه فعليا ما راح يجيك مبلغ مثل ما كان يجيك بالسابق بعد الاكسشينج، او انه مكلف انك تشتري من الخارج مو زي السابق. فوش تسوي بالحاله هذه؟ تغير الاسعار. فpass through period هنا بيتغير السعر. هنا quantity adjustment period the expected balance of trade is eventually realized. هنا ممكن يكون في realized. هنا يحدث ايش؟ الرياليزيشن. يعني خلينا ناخذ مثال. يعني اول شيء لما نيجي نتكلم عن الفتره الاولى خلينا نشوفها هنا. طبعا هذا يو اس تريد بالانس، والمقصود منها السعر لما تشتري اوكي هذا اكسبورت هذا امبورت. ام يعني امبورت شباب، واكس يعني اكسبورت. فانا بشوف من واضح اصلا من اسمه هنا يو اس تريد بالانس معناته اكسبورت ماينس امبورت، فواضح ان اكس معناته اكسبورت وام امبورت. فالسعر المحلي ضرب ايش؟ ما اتكلم امريكا، سعر المحلي للشيء اللي تبيعه للخارج price for export P dollar and export times the quantity of export ضرب ايش؟ الكميه اللي بتبيعها للخارج ناقص ايش؟ الامبورت. كم الامبورت؟ كميه المبلغ الماني فور ذا امبورت. هو سعر الدوله الاجنبيه هنا فرانك سويسري ما اظن للامبورت سعر الدوله ضرب ايش؟ الكوانتيتي حقت الامبورت، كم هي الكميه ضرب ايش؟ الاكسشينج ريت. هذا سبوت، يعني اس معناته سبوت. شباب لازم نعرف اس يعني سبوت، اس يعني سبوت، واف يعني فيوتشر. راح اتكلم عنها بعدين ان شاء الله، بس ناخذها بالفكره هذه. فهنا الفارق بينهم هو يو اس تريد بالانس. هنا بيكون في بالانس. طبعا هنا نتكلم عنها if we ignore if others are already in balance. وش others؟ other accounts، يعني financial و capital accounts. ف لانه مثل ما ذكرنا احنا trade of balance of payments لكل 3 and the reserve. فهنا مثلا خلينا ناخذها، خلينا نروح على طول للجراف بعدين نتكلم عنها. الان عندنا ايش اللي حصل؟ صار فيه ايش؟ هذه period 1 currency contract period هنا عندنا الى exchange. اول شيء الى فتره الكرنسي contract period صار وش صار؟ عندنا deficit، لانه هذا ايش؟ هنا بيصير في زيرو، هنا بيصير في عندنا deficit. وش بيصير بالفتره هذه اللي فيها deficit؟ عندنا currency contract period ما نقدر نغير شيء. طيب من فتره الكرنسي كونتراكت بيريد خلاص انت اوريدي اعطيت كلمات، اعطيت كلام للطرف الاخر اللي بتبيع له انك بتبيع له بالسعر الفلاني، ما تقدر تغير. الان بعد ما after you realize that there will be what a depreciation on the currency on the US dollar. خلاص ضعف الدولار الامريكي. وش بيصير بالحاله هذه؟ هنا عندنا طبعا شو اسمه خلاص الان لازم مع ان ضعفت العمله وانت بتبيع بالدولار الامريكي معناته انك لازم تبيع بسعر اعلى من السابق، اعلى من السابق. هذا المفروض. اذا افترضنا انه في اكسشينج ريت بين وبين الطرف الثاني. نفس الحكايه من ناحيه الامبورت، نفس الحكايه من ناحيه سواء اكسبورت او امبورت، بس بالطرف الاخر. هنا الامبورت، امبورت معناته انك بتشتري بالعمله الاجنبيه. لما بتشتري بالعمله الاجنبيه الان مكلف عليك اكثر من السابق، فلذلك ما راح تشتري الا اذا قلل عليك السعر، صح ولا لا؟ You're not gonna purchase until they ايش شو اسمه lower the prices. But we'll take exports. It's easier. So let's say the company imports raw materials and exports product. The raw materials they imported from other countries cost them a lot of money. Why? Because they exchange the dollar with the foreign currency, and this exchange cost them more dollar, right? Because the dollar value have been what? Full, decrease or depreciated. So that means they need more unit of US dollar to purchase that foreign currency. Okay, how do they make up this loss؟ خلاص خسرهم. كيف يعوضونها؟ انهم الان لما يبيعون بالخارج يبيعون بسعر اعلى من السابق. واضح يا شباب؟ فبيبيعون بسعر اعلى من السابق. That's the exchange rate pass-through period. And then what? Quantity adjustment period. هنا ايش؟ خلاص بيتعادل الquantity adjustment period، انه بيتساوى الاثنين مع بعض اللي هو هنا معناته بيساوي صفر. الفارق بين الاكسبورت والامبورت هذه بالquantity adjustment period. اوكي طيب capital mobility شو المقصود في capital mobility؟ يعني معناتها easily move capital from one country to another. We actually maybe want to go through some period. Yeah, here we have the periods. It's not important, but we go through them. What happened to the capital mobility? Of course, there will be different stages or era or periods uh, for this capital mobility. Capital mobility, by the time we can mention this as either in labor or capital itself. Period categorized by continuously increasing capital openness as more countries adopted the gold standard and expand the international trade relations. But is it exactly capital openness? Not yet, but improved compared to the period before that. But still, this is the period when there's a more, let's say, restriction on trade. Countries make more. There was more competition between country. Period of global economic distraction due to the World War and global depression. So we have two wars and the Great Depression during that time. 1945 and 1971, Bretton Woods era saw great expansion of international trade in goods and services. So there was more trade and openness have been increased for this period. Why this period? There was certainty. There was certainty. كان في وضوح. والسبب خلاص صار في وضوح انا ببيع واعرف كم هو الاكسشينج ريت واضحه بسبب ربطها بالدولار ربط العملات بالذهب لما تكلمنا عنها اذا تذكرونها بعدها خلاص فلوتنج صار في صار خلاص الان بالفتره هذه صار لا ننسى فتره تشجيع الدول وتشجيع المنظمات كل المنظمات بالتجاره وفتح التجاره على مستوى العالم صار في منظمات عديده جدا من هذه الناحيه ولا ننسى World Trade Organization. So period characterized by floating exchange rates صارت خلاص صار الاكسشينج ريت floating economic volatility but rapidly expanding cross border capital flow. خلاص صار في تروح الكابيتال will flow out or in the country more easily than before. Part of the reason low restriction on trade. Gold standard intra-war years هاي تكلمنا عنها Bretton Woods era floating era و emerging شو اسمه emerging era. طيب شو اسمه بس هذه تقريبا تفاصيل هنا growing openness نفس الكلام اللي ذكرناها قبل شوي. intra-war era protectionism and isolation. شوفوا هنا المهم هنا عندنا يا شباب هنا ايش؟ limited capital mobility. لاحظوا الفترة هذه limited capital mobility. مثل ما ذكرنا قبل شوي وش قلنا؟ لأنه هو كاتبها شو النقطة هذه شوي تلخبط هنا لما قال إيش؟ قال ما راح عشان كذا عرجنا هذه النقطة لما قال increasing capital openness. Yes, but compared to the previous period, but not really exactly because limited capital mobility we have here. فأهم نقطة في الفترة هذه هنا limited capital mobility. هنا في صار في protectionism, isolation, في barrier to trade هذه raising barrier هذه ذكرناها قبل شوي. صار في لما ذكرنا هذه النقطة شوف النقطة هذه أهم النقاط إن إيش ما في فعليا capital mobility عالي. هنا في إيش في barrier to trade بين الدول عشان المنافسة بينهم خصوصا تأثرت الدول من الحروب وغيرها. النقطة هذه لا في تطور كبير. trade increasing أيوه dominated by capital era and فلذلك النقطة هذه إيش في تطور أو زيادة بالtrade. هنا النقطة هذه floating era industrialized nation open emerging states secondary restricted capital flow maintain capital flow dominate trade emerging nation suffer devaluation. طبعا فترة خلاص الآن floating the exchange rate صار في وضوح كبير. الدول لسه قاعدة تحاول بس قياسا الآن الدول فتحت أكثر. هنا لما فتحت الدول بعضها البعض capital flow increasingly drive economic growth and health. فلذلك هنا الفترة أعلى فترة. لما نقول which era has increasing the openness or openness يعني معناتها ان تنفتح العالم الخارجي. For countries, it's the emerging era or between or from 1997 and after that. Capital flight. We talk about the capital flight. تكلمنا عنها بشكل عام بشكل سريع. الكابيتال فلايت أهم نقطة يا شباب إنها إيش؟ sudden movement. طبعا في عليها restriction بعض المرات بالكابيتال فلايت، خصوصا الدول اللي تعتبر في عندها مشاكل. دول اللي خلينا نقول developed country maybe they don't have some restriction because sometimes moving capital at some certain level will be illegal. So international flow of direct and portfolio investment under ordinary circumstances are rarely associated in the capital flight phenomena. Rather, it's when capital transfer by resident conflicts with the political objective in the term of fly comes into general use. شباب أهم نقطة بالcapital fly إنجل professor of finance في جامعة نيويورك على ما أظن. الأهم نقطة بالcapital flight هي sudden movement of capital and by large amount. هذه أهم نقطة. That's the main thing for capital flight. So it's sudden by and large amounts. By its name, it's capital flight. 5 primary mechanisms exist, which capital may be moved away from one country to another. Transfer via usual international payment mechanism, regular bank transfer are easiest, cheapest and illegal. تحويل مثلا من ضمن الكابيتال الاموال، تحويل اسهل طريقه عن طريق البنك، وهي اسهلها وارخصها يعني، وهي مثل ما ذكرنا ليجل. انا ما راح ياخذ عليك رسوم عاليه غير لما تسويها بطريقه، واصلا منطقيا اذا انت بتسويها بطريقه ثانيه غالبا بيكون وشو، لانك بتتجنب الشيء الخاص بالبنك، لانه ممكن يكون في اشياء البنك ما يسمح لك انك تحولها في حد ويعتبر مثلا illegal، وتفاصيل اخرى مثلا الاي ار اس مثلا IRS may require something for transferring money, a limit, most likely I think $10,000, otherwise will be reported to the IRS لانه ممكن يكون في شيء تهرب ضريبي وغيرها. Transfer of physical currency by bearer smuggling is more costly and هذه illegal. فبعض الدول يعتبر illegal physical currency لما تحول كمية كبيرة من الأموال في حد معين، بس هنا بالحالة هذه ممكن تجد طريقة بس تعتبر illegal. Many countries, that doesn't mean most likely these countries are I'm not going to say a developing country, but most of the developed countries will not consider as illegal. So why? Because they are in a good shape. Those countries who suffer most likely will face capital flight, and in order to avoid this capital flight, there will be a limit on the. There is also a control in the capital control. China do this sometimes. Transfer of cash into collectibles or period metals وش الطريقه؟ طيب انت ما تقدر تحول اموال، شو تسوي؟ خصوصا موضوع اللاندري، ماني لاندري اتوقع مذكوره هنا يا ماني لاندري. وش تسوي؟ تحولها لشيء اخر، مثل ما يقول لك ميتالز يعني جولد اند سو اون، ذهب وغيرها. وبالحاله هذه خلاص انت حولتها بطريقه اخرى ولا قيمته، شيء لا قيمته يعني. هذا الشيء المهم. The cross-border purchase of assets, which are then managed the way you hide the movement of money and its owner, money laundering. غسيل أموال وطرقها إنك تحولها بدل ما تحولها ككاش، تحولها بطريقة أخرى لتحويلها إلى شيء آخر لا قيمته أيا كان الشيء الآخر. False invoicing on international trade transactions. بس طيب في سؤال يا شباب قبل ما نبدأ chapter 5. Chapter 5. Current multinational financial challenges, the credit crisis of 2007-2009. طيب اللي حصل في أمريكا، طبعا اللي حصل كان في أمريكا financial crisis. طبعا يسمى financial crisis. للأمانة ما كنا نسمع عن، لما كنا في أمريكا ما كنا نسمع GFC. We just hear financial crisis, and they call it global financial crisis outside of the United States. So in the United States, they call it financial crisis, and it's actually because it spill over other countries all around the world. أثر على دول كثيرة بالعالم. فبتكلم عن financial crisis of 2007 2009. Actually, by the way, guys, into for 402, you will take this more details. And actually, that's the financial crisis, the one you're gonna take on, or if you already took that one. For the 402, it's really helpful. You will you understand some fundamental for the financial crisis. Okay, the seeds of crisis: subprime debt, the repeal Glass-Steagall, 1933. You guys took this on the what is it called, the 401. If you remember 401, you took Abdurrahman, you remember, right? We already mentioned this on 401. Yes. The repeal of Glass-Steagall, 1933. 1933, they said that bank do only bank stuff. What does that mean? That bank only whatever considered as a depository institution will not engage into other activity, and that split a lot of financial institution into a parts. Great Depression, yes. After Great Depression, yes, you're right. And after that, mainly JP Morgan have become have divided that company or that institution. JP Morgan before it becomes JP Morgan Chase, of course. FDIC has insured commercial bank. FDIC have been created at that time. FDIC. SEC has regulated the riskier investment bank. So FDIC, they want to introduce a new thing, which is the FDIC. They said, okay, the Glass-Steagall Act at that time, they said, okay, if in order for a new let's say institution or corporation insure the depositor, so avoiding the bank run, in order to avoid a bank run, we have to separate bank from non-bank. So the FDIC can insure these banks. So that's what happened. SEC has regulated riskier investment banks. So what about the riskier investment banks have been regulated by the SEC, Security Exchange Commission. Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, or whatever, or actually also they call GLB, the act, Financial Services Moderation Act of 1999. Okay, at that time, they said that it's actually the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, or they call it the Financial Service Modernization Act, the Financial Service Modernization Act. So either or. So guys, by the way, this they call it Graham-Leach-Bliley Act or Financial Service Modernization Act. Sometimes they combine it together, but you can use one or the other. The that one is that's changed the financial or the banking industry in the United States a lot. So this one is let's say changing the or offsetting the Glass-Steagall Act. So this time the firms can do any other activity. The bank can do any other financial activity, not just whatever being considered as a banking activity. So changing a lot and making made the banks let the banks make make profits. And this act have been accused by a lot of people in the United States as or economists and so on the media, politicians, as a reason or one reason for the financial crisis. Repeal what remained Glass-Steagall by allowing commercial bank and commercial investment bank to engage in activity formerly reserved for the others. So Mainly, what banks can do anything, any other financial services, not just whatever have been regulated. So it's deregulation. Deregulation have become more and more in the United States during that time, starting from 1999. So that's the one thing. It's not the only thing. Many other deregulation happen afterward. Okay, the housing sector and mortgage lending, many new borrowers now qualify for loans. Prime loan, also known for conventional or confirming loans, meet the requirements for or resale to government-sponsored enterprise such as Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Alt A loan are considered low risk but have initial non-conforming feature. Subprime loan are not meet do not meet underwriting criteria and have higher risk of default. Okay, what does all of that mean? First of all, debt, you can the financial institution, mainly a bank, uh, mortgage companies as well, any other financial institution, but mainly the banks, let's say, thrifts and so on, they can sell the loan to others, mainly the government sponsor enterprise. That's the public. There's a private as well. So these firms will pool all the debt and sell in the secondary markets. See, something called securitization. Okay, this one used to be done only by Freddie Mac. Only by actually, when was securitization began? It was in 1970. That time when Freddie Mac was established. Fannie Mae established before, long before Freddie Mac, and Fannie Mae, both of them actually for mortgage, both of them for mortgages. So Fannie Mae established on the 40s, most likely. So after they introduced the new mortgage, or the new amortized mortgage or amortized loan, so you can pay your debt for the house for 30 years and being assured by the Fannie Mae, which is not exactly it's a federal, but not exactly a government, but funded somehow by government, if in case it face any difficulty. But they get all the financing and so on by itself. We're not going to get into details, but if you want, you can ask later on. But later on, the 70s, when Freddie Mac started to pool the debt, Fannie Mae does this as well. So it started to do the same thing with Freddie Mac. There is loan, which there's a prime, and there's alternative. So the prime is called A paper or A loan. The alternative, it's still at the prime, meaning that it's a very low risk. The alternative A, it's considered low risk. And there's a subprime. Subprime, this is considered as something that you should not give a mortgage to this kind of person. Why? It's a very high, the very low credit score. That means it will be default. This person will default into payments. That's what a subprime borrower means. So the subprime loans, this means the bank will give a loan to those with high risk. So why we mention this in here? Because we will mention the seeds of the crisis. Why? Subprime debt. Why? During the financial crisis, or way before the financial crisis, let's say not way before, starting the 2000s, banks, financial institutions started to give loans to those subprime borrowers. Why? Because they can easily sell the loan, the whole loan. So how do they do that? Okay, let's say Khalid will come to borrow from a bank or get a mortgage for a house he's gonna buy. The bank will give him will purchase that house will cost, like, let's say $100,000. Then Khalid will pay back the bank. let's say Khalid is high risk. That means he actually have been defaulted many times. So that means he has a low credit score. Why did the bank give Khalid? Because the bank already know that after that, this $100,000 that he gave Khalid for borrowing for the purchasing the house will sell that to another institution, right? Yeah, one part of high interest rates, yeah, but we'll sell this loan to another institution, which is most likely, if it's a public, it's the government sponsored enterprise, which is like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, or private, could be private. And then nothing will happen to him, to the bank, sorry. The bank have this $100,000, sell it, and get the $100,000 plus the fee. So made a lot of money. The bank made a lot of money and doesn't care if Khalid will default or not. Who are actually care? They will pull that money and sell it in the secondary market in the term of CDO, MBS, and so on. So what will happen after that will be a default. Maybe. Who will bear that risk? The investor, whoever purchased, let's say, MBS, mortgage-backed security. That will actually bear the risk. Actually, after that, they have changed this a lot. Actually, after the financial crisis, they made the bank to bear some part of that loan. So that means the bank cannot sell the whole loan. So Khalid, the bank will not sell the loan for Khalid, the $100,000, all that. They have to keep at least 10%, I guess, portion of that. That one thing. The second thing, there's no down payment. So this one increased the risk. That's why they call it the seed of the crisis, because the subprime debt have been increasing. Before 1980s, there were no single financial institution will provide a loan to subprime borrower, and that's what happened after the 1980s. So in the 1990s started, and then 2000 become more and more. And they make a lot of money. Financial, or let's say, now I'm not going to say financial institution alone, I will say the Wall Street in general. Well, they make a lot of money. Until 1980, most states prevented sale of subprime. Yeah, that's, we already mentioned it, but we didn't say that it had been prevented by the states, by states. Isn't the same was studied on 401 when banks sell home loans as a package? Yes, it's the same as a package. They sell all the loan they have to other places, to the pass through, if it's a private or government sponsor enterprise, not government, government sponsor, GSE. Either way, they pull it together and then they sell it in the secondary markets. It's the same, yes. Okay, by 2008, subprime loan equal approximately 8% of outstanding mortgage obligation, but are the source of over 65% of bankruptcy filing by U.S. homeowner. So have been increased the subprime loan. They said it's like 8% of outside mortgage obligation, which is really high. If you think about it, it's almost almost 10%, 8%, almost 1 out of 10 loans or out of 12 loans will be defaulted. Most likely will be defaulted, which is actually, it's a trigger, and will actually that's made the housing market to the value to increase, and after that will result into a crisis. اوكي خلينا نوقف هنا يا شباب. نتكلم عنها وش اللي حصل. نخلص الوقت، اتوقع نخلص الوقت. نوقف هنا، محاضرة جاية نكمل ان شاء الله باذن الله. اسعفنا الوقت المحاضرة الجاية. في سؤال يا شباب؟